Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the All-Star Wrestling Review Series for the 17th of May, 1982. I'm enjoying the All-Star Wrestling Series for a number of reasons, partially because it's stuff I haven't seen before, and partially because I enjoy old-school wrestling, especially before I became a fan. But anything before 1998 is a preference for me. 1998 is when the wrestling boom was coming to a high, and quite honestly, it's also when my interest, other than ECW and independent wrestling, was waning. I did not enjoy the two main products, although I did enjoy other products, as mentioned. We move to the program at hand here. The Intercontinental Champion Ken Patera, of course, the Intercontinental Champion instated in 1979. Worth taking a peek at here. But Patera manages to be the guy to wrestle it away from Pat Patterson, I'm pretty sure. Of course, now it's a championship that has lost meaning over the years. Grand Wizard alongside Mr. Patera here. Wizard, one of the three managers alongside Lou Albano and Blassie. Elbow drops and the like by Patera. Patera had a couple of matches with Bob Backlund, the world champion at this time, too. High back body drop on the enhancement talent as well. Overall, just a really aggressive and assertive match for Patera. And he manages to get a vertical suplex that's kind of a hanging, falling style suplex. And again, off and away we go. Patera gets the swinging Phil Nelson in less than a minute here, wearing USA trunks and pretty well aggressively proving that he has everything he needs. A portable gurney is brought to the ringside area, kind of the old run style, and we will be right back because I need to grab my phone. Take care for just a second. And then we have the El Olympico and Bob Backlund kind of, for lack of better terms, skirmish match, which is neither good nor bad. Of course, Backlund has been champion since February of 78, so he's been champion for a little while here. This particular skirmish match is useful in that I think it gives Backlund more credibility as a technical star. It is not a match where there is a victor. They go for 10 minutes and Backlund shows holds. Backlund kind of crowbars the arm a bit on his opponent. The luchador seems odd to have as the main opponent, but again, probably not wanting to waste a established talent with this. And B, if you do this with a complete enhancement talent, then it looks kind of weak, so that's kind of probably why they did it this way. Backlund, though, manages to try to get the ability to roll through on an armbar of his opponent, and Backlund manages to do some rolls and come back up with a grapevine of the legs, kind of half grapevine, and Backlund continues to be in control. Monkey flip along the middle section of the match here, and ultimately leading to a decent place for him to be. And so he kind of hooks things up there and does the go around single leg trip, and again, there you go. Olympico is holding on to a headlock. Backlund takes him backwards by the mask a little bit. Doesn't really get super aggressive on it, but at the same time does get where he needs to be, and ultimately Backlund rolls through, back up, and takes the man down pretty aggressively there. Backlund now holding on to the back of the leg and kind of keeping him up, and ultimately kind of does a bit of a sit out and then gets what he needs to get. And ultimately there's a step through into a figure four by Bob Backlund. Of course, Backlund trained mainly in Florida, Eddie Graham and Hiro Matsuda with their influence. Backlund again tries to pick the leg and kind of does the jockeying for position thing for a couple of minutes, holds on to the arm, and ultimately, kind of hangs out there waits for his opponent to get up, does not take cheap shots, which is interesting. A high crotch by the champion and almost a hanging backdrop attempted, but the I can't say challenger, but I guess his challenge for the moment is set forward. The exhibitional nature of this is interesting, but again, we're talking 40 years ago when it was treated like a sport. So having a exhibition style match is good. Backlund again comes out ahead and shakes the hand of his adversary here. Gorilla Monsoon talks about wanting to get his hands on none other than Larry Zbyszko. Zbyszko, a bit ago, within the last few months, getting his hands on Bruno Sammartino after turning on him. And Monsoon, months away from a more permanent retirement, I believe. I think 80 is his last year. Backlund then talks about all the challengers that are there. He also talks about not wanting to cheat the fans and being annoyed at anybody, including Playboy Buddy Rose, who speaks negatively about the fans. Ken Patera kind of putting the word out that he's willing to challenge anybody and everybody to maintain his Intercontinental Championship. Patera much better on the microphone than he was in the late 80s here. Certainly more inspired too at this point, having about 8 years in the business or thereabouts. The Grand Wizard is alongside the Intercontinental Champion, and it is clear that the Wizard doesn't want to waste any extra time with his adversary here. Then we go to a Larry Zbyszko enhancement match situation. Zbyszko here going against, it's Zbyszko against Angelo Gomez, and the match runs about 3.5 minutes or so. Super basic match, but again, Zbyszko at this particular juncture is bouncing around and still being pretty confident / cocky after defeating, his opponent in the nature that is kind of jumping in on Bruno Sammartino, his mentor, trainer, and longtime friend. Zbyszko roughing up the enhancement talent a little bit, shoves him back into the ropes, and eventually wins with a vertical suplex. Still kind of does the negative pose, and with longer hair, certainly doesn't seem to care that anybody is upset with his actions against his former trainer, mentor, and best friend. Come back to Vince McMahon. McMahon still plugging things. Again, we see a secondary promo with the benefit of both Backlund and his opponent here. Then we go to the benefit of a longer match, as we see, I believe Johnny Rozz or Tor Kamara is up here. And, I mean, ultimately, when you look at these types of matches, what you're really looking for in 1980's sense is, does it look like a competitive deal? And it does here. And again, whether you are a fan of old school wrestling or not, one thing that can be said is it looks much more competitive here than it does at that particular point. Rene Goulet and Tor Kamara go to a 10-minute time limit draw in this particular on this particular occasion. So back and forth, and I mean, it's not a match that you're going to write home about, but one thing that's here too is you see a lot of motion and very little wasted motion here. Kimura manages to hold on to his adversary for a good bit, tries to drive him back with the armbar, takes him down pretty simply and simplistically, doesn't waste motion and Goulet kind of tackles him. Goulet, mostly known for his role as an office worker, tries to tip out of the situation, and up and over round through, Goulet grabs the arm and hangs with his opponent for a little bit there. Kimura, former tag team champion, not necessarily in this era known for his, singles action, although he does do singles from time to time. Both guys square off and square up pretty simply. Neither guy gets a clear advantage for the next several minutes. Goulet sent off the ropes, and again with shoulder tackles. Kimura comes up and doesn't really necessarily like the position he finds himself in. Deep attempted arm drags. And we actually see a running headbutt type situation. Then we see the Samoans here again in a main event tag team scenario. And of course, with about 6 minutes left, the Samoans, managed by Lou Albano, kind of your heavier attraction for the final bout of the day. Albano refusing to leave the ring, and the referee actually counting the man into a position where if he doesn't leave the ring, his men are going to be disqualified. I like that. I like referees having more authority than they do modern day. I like a lot of the things ultimately that comes to a halt there. Also, it's just interesting to kind of go with a more meaningful, I guess you'd say, series of matches on the basis that, even here in this point of I guess the point of nature, for lack of a better term, you have a meaningful run of matches, and the Samoans are here. They're doing all they can, and that kind of gets them an advantage too. A bit of brawling and basic wherewithal there. Obviously, the shots by various enhancement talents. Sika is in the ring, takes a drop kick, but doesn't go down. Another thing too, larger guys tended to not bump as much. Now you've got guys doing 450 splashes at over 300 pounds. It's goofy, and while the Samoans are not necessarily your most typically athletic team, you knew where you stood when the Samoans were in the ring. It looked like a fight. It looked like something that was going to happen. That was pretty simple. The cutoff on the ring and the nerve hold gets an advantage. Captain Lou Albano is excited when his men throw something as simple as a backdrop, and it goes on in that general direction. Samoans continue to hold on to their advantage and ultimately win the match with a modified Samoan drop after some near falls and tags of the like against the squash opponents. That is your victory for today. We'll be back with more right after this.